Hey, what is going on, everybody? So we're going to be talking about the this Forbes article where I actually saw it originally on Facebook, where it's the Congress is planning to vote to federally legalize marijuana. Now, that's not totally accurate. What they're really trying to do is decriminalize it. So a little bit of background to this bill. It was proposed by Jerry Nadler of New York, and it has 55 other co-sponsors, all of whom are Democrats, according to this is Tom and Jill. Now, the goal of this bill, and we're kind of going to go through the whole thing here, more or less, the kind of the core points, is to decriminalize and deschedule cannabis to provide for reinvestment in certain persons adversely impacted by the war on drugs, to provide for expungement of certain cannabis offenses, and for other purposes. Now, essentially, it's pretty straightforward right there. And something to keep in mind is the fact that uh, this is still in committee. It's, coming out. It's going to be voted on. And, there's opportunities for this to change, but that's why we're kind of talking about it so that, people can kind of see, kind of get a feel for what they, want and don't want in this bill. Kind of some of the things that I personally don't think should be passed and some things that I like about it. So going down, the official title of the bill is the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act of 2019, or the MORE Act of 2019, which is how I will be referring to it from here on. Now, kind of going down, we have Section 2, the decriminalization of cannabis. This is the, I'd probably say the core part of this, and the part that I, generally speaking, like all around. So what this does is that it, first and foremost, makes a revision to the Controlled Substances Act by striking out marijuana or the tetrahydrocannabinoids, except for those in hemp. So that's taken care of in another law. But essentially, it's going through decriminalizing it. Now, something to keep in mind is that decriminalization is different from legalization. Now, with legalization, it's free game. There's obviously going to be like restrictions or rules around it. But with decriminalization, it's still not legal. And like, let's say if you get caught with it, you're looking at maybe like a fine or maybe court ordered like community service, take a drug course, like that sort of thing. But you're not going to be facing like criminal charges like going to jail. Now, the one thing that I don't like about this is the if you go down here under paragraph D, the retroactivity. So essentially, it kind of goes back, and anybody who's at least according to what I'm reading here, and if somebody like knows otherwise, like other talks or discussion about like what specifically will not be expunged, then I would love to know. But from my understanding, and we'll kind of get into this a little more, is that pretty much any cannabis offense will be nullified. And like I said, we'll go down further down. I believe it's in section 5 or section 6, like somewhere further down towards the bill, where it actually kind of goes over what will be and won't be expunged and how that process is going to work. But like I said, one of the things that I do like is the idea that the federal government shouldn't be the ones legalizing marijuana. I believe that's something that should be up to the states, and I personally believe that it should be legalized. I don't smoke. It's just not something that I enjoy. However, I do think it's something that people should be allowed to do with, obviously regulation rules. Like, I don't think some 13-year-old should be able to legally smoke weed. But somebody who's like, 18, even maybe 21, sure, they're an adult. We don't need the government holding people's hands. It's not something like it's methamphetamine or heroin that people are doing, which that's a whole nother discussion in and of itself about legalization of other drugs. Now, kind of going down though, part of this bill is also, as I mentioned in the kind of prelude, is really kind of pushing and legalizing and making it easier for marijuana, or rather cannabis industries and businesses to do business, which I do think is something that would be good, because right now as it stands, I believe that banks really don't want to have anything to do with any cannabis industries, due to the fear that because it's still illegal federally, that if the federal government wants to come in and say, hey, you're offering loans to an illegal business, well, they're going to get smacked around by the federal government because of it. Now, this will make it easier, and I do think, like I said, because I believe marijuana should be legal, that this does make it easier, which I think overall is good. And this would be like collecting stats, like who is, who isn't, Now, kind of section 4, this is where things I really don't like about this bill. So what this does is the creation of the Opportunity Trust Fund and imposition of tax on cannabis products. Now, kind of going down here on section 9512, Opportunity Trust Fund. Now, this is where I'm really starting to kind of look at this bill sideways and where I think that this bill needs a lot of work. So first and foremost, this is the creation of the trust fund. Basically what this will be is that there will be a 5% tax on the sale of cannabis, and that amount will be, sent back, and they'll be divvied up. Here, 50% will be sent to the AG. He'll be able to do that, and then carry out section 3052A, of the omnibus bill, as well as 3052B of the omnibus bill. And then down here, under was this paragraph C, 3 and 4, this is the parts I don't like, and we'll get more into it here in like section 5, B1 and B2. But essentially what this does is that it sets aside, about 40% to go to the administrator of the Small Business Administration. And like I said, we'll get into this more down there in section 5. Now, going down a little bit more though, here's, the taxes where it talks about what exactly is cannabis, what will be defined, and then, like I said, the 5% tax that will be included. Now, going down to the manufacturer of cannabis products. Now, this is something that I think is interesting because it deals with the manufacturing of cannabis. So anybody who grows, plants, cultivates, etc., will be considered a manufacturer, except those with respect to any cannabis product which is for such a person's own personal consumption or use, which I'm all for. If people want to grow it and not selling it, fine. Same thing with alcohol. You want to, produce your own alcohol, do your own wine, that's cool, just as long as you're not selling it, because there are, rules and regulations that need to go around it. Now, going down to the Opportunity Trust Fund programs, this is the part where, like I said before, this is section 5 where I really start getting, I start to have some big problems with this. So first off, it sets up, the establishment of the Cannabis Justice Office. This sets up a director who will be appointed by the Assistant AG of the Office of Justice Programs. Now, going down here, you'll see that the duties and functions of the Cannabis Justice Office is authorized to administer the Community Reinvestment Grant Program. Now, essentially what this is that this is the, those who are most adversely impacted on the war on drugs. Now, half of this is good, half of this I'm like, look sideways at. So the one part that I'm actually like is the idea that the director of the cannabis office will carry out this grant program. And essentially, as you see here, that the taxes, which will be 20% of the taxes made on cannabis, will be for people to receive job training, reentry services, legal aid, literacy programs, health programs, like health education, I should say. And that part I'm actually pretty good on. Like, I like that we should be kind of getting people back into society, reintegrating them. But where I start having issue is down below under section 3054, wherein they begin to talk about offering out loans through the Small Business Act, which I do not think this federal government should have any right offering out loans to help people up. I think it's a great idea. Like, at heart, it's, sounds nice, it's good, but no, the federal government shouldn't be helping out private individuals setting up their business. That's what the banks are there for. That's what these loan agencies are for, is for private businesses and private people and citizens being able to operate on their own. We do not need the federal government, overstepping, getting more into the, private business side of things, taking out more loans when we're already, trillions of dollars in debt. Now, kind of going back, like, what exactly was the individual most adversely impacted by the war on drugs is interesting. So it's those whose income is below 250% of the federal poverty level for at least 5 of the past 10 years, and has been arrested for or convicted of the sale, possession, use, manufacture, or cultivation of cannabis or a controlled substance, except for a conviction involving distribution to a minor, or whose parent, sibling, spouse, or child has been arrested for or convicted of such an offense. Now, I think I said earlier that one of the things that I'm kind of more, soft on or kind of empathetic is the possession side, up to a certain point. But the issue I start taking here is the idea that those who got caught or, have an offense for sale, possession, cultivation, then it's like, no. Like, if you're making money off of this, then if you got this charge, you're trying to make money in a legal way. Like, sorry. It's not like, oh, whoops, I accidentally sold weed. I just didn't know, and again, there's certain things where it's just like I said earlier, you get caught with a gram or two, like whatever, like let's get people back and not holding people down. Like once you serve your time, you serve your time. Like let's get people making money. Let's get them, working, productive citizens and start taxing them. Let them get into the workforce again. We don't need to be holding people down. That is admittedly something that I agree that we have a pretty punitive justice system, which, we'll probably in another video later. And I think that's the biggest thing that I have with this bill is the fact that, one, it's offering out loans. The federal government is offering out loans to these private citizens, or rather they're sending out, grants or money to local or state offices and kind of waiving the fees that are associated with the starting up the business and what have you. On top of the fact that it's retroactively expunging people's records, which again there's a discussion to be had. But again, for an extreme example, somebody gets caught and convicted with, like, let's say 50 pounds of weed, probably shouldn't have that expunged. Now that's not to say that maybe we can look into seeing what can be done for it. There's definitely a discussion to be had, but we need to take it more of a case by case basis. But overall, I mean, this is something that's interesting, but one, people need to keep in mind that this isn't what people are thinking it is. Like I said, I mean, people's already thinking it's to legalize it, and it's not. It's something that should be up to the states, and ultimately there's a lot of work to be done. Like, this bill as it is does not stand. Like, I think it has one, which is Gates, I believe, who is actually the Republican representative of Florida here in the Panhandle area. So, which overall I kind of like him, but I think there's work to be done. I think we're definitely going in the right direction here, but people need to hold their horses. This isn't something that's good as it is. There's a lot of work, but on the right path overall. Hope you guys liked it, enjoyed listening. Definitely have another one as this thing continues and as more news develops here over the next couple of weeks. Thank you guys, and y'all have a good day.